Hello all you Precalculus fans. We're going to be starting another problem dealing with constructing sinusoidal functions. I just want you to understand it could be the formula or the equation that we are going to build either can be in the form of sine or cosine. So this video is going to do a quick little review of sine and cosine, and then we're going to go ahead and work on this problem right here. Well, it says the graph of a sinusoidal function has a minimum point at 0, -3, and it intersects its midline at 1, 1. So the very first thing you want to make sure you understand you're dealing with these 2 points. You're dealing with 0, -3, and you're dealing with 1, 1. So you want to get your graph paper, you want to be able to plot those points. Alright, so you got 0, -3, and 1, 1. Make sure you understand which one's the midline. The midline's right here at 1, 1. And when you do that, what you'd like to do is just create a line that just goes right through that point. Just kind of create that midline. Okay. Next thing you do is you try to figure out, okay, are we dealing with a sine or are we dealing with a cosine? All right, because technically you could build a sine function out of this, but in this particular case it's going to be easier, I think, to build a cosine. So we'll take a look at it real quick. All right. So here's your regular cosine function. This is a positive cosine function. It starts at 0, 1, goes down through pi, half of pi 0, down to pi -1, then all the way back up. And so what I've done is I've highlighted the period of this function. So when you think of cosine of x, this is what I want you to think of, this highlighted graph. When you think of negative cosine of x, I want you to think of the opposite, like it starts at -1, goes up to +1. So here we go. Positive cosine, negative cosine. Positive cosine, negative cosine. All right? And you'll kind of see, because we started down here at a 0, -1, that's going to be very similar to what we're working with this one. We're starting at 0, -3. Okay? If we were starting at 0, +3, then I would interpret it as a positive cosine graph if it started up here versus a negative cosine graph which starts down here. Now, let's take a look at a sine, a positive sine. Positive sine usually starts right here at what? 0, 0. So then it goes up and then down, then back up. So what do we call this whole up and down and back up? That right there is the length of the period for the graph to complete its cycle. And this is dealing with the unit circle. When we're working with the unit circle, when you start plotting points that go all the way around the unit circle. So there's the positive sine of x graph, negative sine. Positive sine, negative sine. You'll see how similar they are. Where do they both start? 0, 0. Where does this one start? 0, 0. Where does this one go? It goes up. This one goes down. So think of it this way. Positive goes up, negative goes down. For a cosine, the positive starts up here, goes down and back up. The negative starts down below and goes up. So you want to know kind of the difference between the graphs. So here's what I'm going to do. You might want to pause the video at some point and just draw these graphs in your journal if you haven't already drawn. The positive cosine of x, negative cosine of x, positive sine of x, negative sine of x. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at our problem. All right, our problem starts at 0, -3, and it goes up to 1, 1. So basically, you're starting right here, and it's starting to go up. So I can draw a better job here, going up, 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 up. All right, but right there, it's only going right now to its midline. So it's not gone to the maximum yet. We're going from the minimum point to right here. It's midline. So let's take a look at this negative cosine graph. So I know I'm going to have, my final answer is going to be f of x equals a cosine b of x minus c plus d. All right. Now I know I'm going to have a negative a value, but then we'll find our b value, we'll find our c value, and the easiest one is to find your d value. The d value is always the y value of the midline. So we know our d value is the number 1 because right here, this line right here of the midline is y equals 1. Okay? All right, so the next thing we're going to find is what's called the amplitude. Something you need to remember about the amplitude. The amplitude is always from the minimum point to the midline. The distance from the minimum to the midline or from its maximum to its midline. So let's think about our amplitude right here. All right, we'll label this. This is our amplitude. All right, So our amplitude is 1, 2, 3, 4. The distance between a 1 and a negative 3 is 4 units. Remember, we said our a value is going to be negative because we're dealing with a negative cosine graph. So I'm going to put my a value is going to be a negative 4, even though our amplitude is positive 4. All right. Always remember, the absolute value of a always equals what's known as its amplitude. All right. So the absolute value of a negative 4 is still 4, but we all have a negative a value. Okay. So the next thing we need to look at is we're going to break this down into its quarters. So let's take a look right here. So I'm going to go here. Here's our negative cosine graph. So let's kind of break this down into its quarters. So here we go. Here is our midline for this one. Here's our midline. If we want to take a look at it. All right, and let's go ahead and break this down into some pieces. I'll do it with blue. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. So we have a section right here. We have a section right there, and then we have the last section right here. So basically, from the minimum to the midline, that is a quarter of the way there. So that's 1/4. Do a better job of that. Here we go. Try to get 1/4 of the way there. This is a 1/4 of the way there. This is a 1/4 of the way there. And right here is a 1/4 of the way there. Hopefully, you're seeing this negative cosine function broken down into its quarters. Like that's a quarter, that's a quarter, this is a quarter, and last but not least, this right here is a quarter, trying to color it decently. All right, so we get 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So all the way across, we call that the period. So once again, from the minimum to the midline, from here to here, is only a quarter of the way across. So we look at our problem, we've literally only gone from here to here, we've only gone 1/4 of the way across. So how many units have we traveled from like right here to right there? We've only gone from what? 0 to a 1. So basically we've only gone 1 unit. If we've only gone 1 unit and we've only got a quarter of the way there, we need to multiply that by 4 to get to the entire period. So the entire period will equal 4 units. All right, so that's the length of our period. The length of our period will be 4 units. Now that's going to help us find our b value. The period is not your b value, but the period will help find the b value. So once again, the period will always equal 2 pi divided by b. So we're going to set that equal to the number 4 over 1 because we found our period to be 4 units long. And then we cross multiply. Get 4 times b, which is 4b. 2 pi times 1 is 2 pi. And then we divide both sides by 4. Wake up if you've fallen asleep already. And b equals 2 over 4 pi, which reduces 2 pi over 2. Now some of you might think of it as half of a pi. You're both right. So our b value is pi over 2, or half of a pi. Personally, I like pi over 2. Now one thing you'll notice, whenever you have a graph that starts at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So it starts right here on the y-axis. If your graph actually starts on the y-axis, it's a beautiful thing. It means there's no phase shift. If there's no phase shift, that means your c value is equal to 0. So we'll probably be getting the phase shift here pretty soon on some of these problems. But right now, your c value is 0. So now let's go ahead and build our final equation. All right. So our a value is -4. So we'll put -4. Our b value is pi over 2. So I'm going to put pi over 2. Our c value is 0. And our d value is our midline, which is a 1. So what am I going to write as my final answer? I'll do it right here in red. It's going to be f of x equals -4. -4. We're going to write cosine, open parentheses. Our b value is pi over 2, so we'll put pi over 2. Then we'll stick an x right next to it. But but there's no c value, so I just close the parentheses, and I put plus 1 as our d value. So that's what I'm going to be typing in to the Khan Academy. And I'll type it in exactly as it appears. But we're going to type this into Desmos and make sure that you guys see that it goes through 0, -3, and 1, 1. So let me go to Desmos real quick. I'm going to type in our ordered pairs real quick. All right, we had a 1, 1. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We had a 0, comma, -3, right there. All right, and then we had our midline. We said our midline was at y equals 1, right there. And our final answer, now you can type in f of x if you want. It knows function notation. Y equals -4 cosine. And then I'm going to go down here to hit the pi divided by 2. The little x right there. And then we said we had to shift it up 1 unit. And now we're going to take a look at everything and see if it works. Hey, look at there. There's 0, -3, which is our minimum point. That's perfect. Right there is 1, 1. All right, and hopefully you can see how it's broken into quarters. There's a quarter. All right. These right here, that's a quarter, and hopefully you can visualize this cosine graph. I'll highlight it in case you're having a hard time seeing that cosine graph. All right. Oh, try it right here. Starts right here, goes up to the midline right there, maxes out right up there. That's not very good. Goes down and finishes right down here. Now, what did I say the period was going to equal? I said the period is going to equal 4. Let's take a look at the point. Hey, look at there. You can kind of see where the different points are. Okay? It started at 0 and it ended at 4, and we said our period, the length of the period, was 4 units long. All right? So you can clearly see the distance between here and here. That's what we call the length of the period. From here to there, that distance is 4 units. All right? And it goes through this point and this point. So now I'm going to go ahead and type in our answer to the Khan Academy. All right, here we go. -4 cosine, open parentheses, put the little pi over 2, put an x, go to the outside of the parentheses, put plus 1. Let's double check, make sure I haven't messed up. Negative, go over here, take a look at it. -4 cosine, pi over 2x plus 1, go over here, check it. -4 cosine, pi over 2x plus 1, hit check. Voila. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can go to, say, if you miss one, you can go to see step-by-step solution, all right, and see how they do it. I would say it's going to be a little bit harder because all they're doing, they're not showing you the graphs. Okay, so hopefully when you guys go through this, you'll go through here and take a look at the different graphs and all the work that we did on the graphs. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, and good luck. This will be the last video of this particular one. Tomorrow I will do another video dealing with the next assignment. All right, have a great day.